Two problems emerged for Hillary Clinton last night following the New Hampshire primary. First, Clinton has a problem connecting with young voters. They are overwhelmingly supporting Bernie Sanders. Here's what Hillary said about that following her loss in New Hampshire.
I know I have some work to do, particularly with young people, but I will repeat again what I have said this week. Even if they are not supporting me now, I support them. Because I know I've had a blessed life, but I also know what it's like to stumble and fall. And so many people across America know that feeling. And we've learned it's not whether you get knocked down that matters, it's whether you get back up.
I'm joined now by Mashable Politics editor Juana Summers, who's in Manchester, New Hampshire, and Zeehan Aleem, who's with Mike.com, senior politics writer here in New York. Nice to see you both. Since you're there in Manchester, let me ask you, Juana, do you have any sense why young people love Bernie and are kind of meh about Hillary Clinton?
Well, I've spent a lot of time, Contessa, following Bernie Sanders' campaign around and was with him last night at his election rally in Concord, not too far from here in Manchester. And the message I really got from voters, from young voters who filled that event at Concord High School, is that they believe that Bernie Sanders is a new face of politics. To them, those that firmly back him, they see Hillary Clinton as an extension of her husband's presidency. They've lived through the Obama presidency. They've seen the change that's fulfilled there. And they don't know that Hillary Clinton is going to be the person to continue that. They want to see someone who can radically change the definition, who can represent progressives in the White House, and they just don't think Hillary Clinton fits the bill.
So Bernie's not new, but Bernie's new to young people. He's new to them.
Right, that's exactly what I'm hearing from them, is that he is a new face for the Democratic Party. They feel like, as Bernie Sanders has said in his speeches, that former Secretary Clinton represents the establishment. She represents Democratic politics as usual in Washington, D.C., that they don't feel represent their interests, and they're hoping to find someone new. And to your point, Bernie Sanders isn't new. He's been a face in politics in this region for quite some time and then was elected to the Senate quite a while ago. So he certainly has been in Washington for a while, has been dealing in the ways of Washington, but they do believe he represents a change and their best hope to address the priorities they want to see in 2016 and 2017.
So Zeehan, yesterday I talked to two different campaign people with Hillary Clinton's campaign, and I asked them both, what has she learned from the young people flocking to Bernie Sanders? How can she remake this? And both of them said to me, well, look, she thinks that the issues that she's fighting for are issues that matter to young people. I don't think they see that. How can she change it?
You know, that's going to be a really steep climb for her, because the reality is that the main reason that young people are flocking to Bernie Sanders rather than Hillary Clinton is their major policy differences. They have different visions of liberalism. And the reality is that Hillary Clinton can't just change her policy platform in the coming months, because it would be in contradiction with everything she's been putting out there. So Bernie Sanders, on everything from free tuition, tackling student debt, tackling income inequality, his plans for foreign policy, the way he wants to deal with money in politics, is something that speaks to kind of a broader discontent with the way business has been going on in Washington for quite some time, and young people are really thirsting for something. Hillary Clinton sort of typifies the establishment, while Bernie Sanders is sort of threatening to sort of tear it down.
And Juana, when we're talking about women, especially what we saw in New Hampshire was women older than 45 were voting for Hillary Clinton, but young women were going to Bernie Sanders. And again, when I asked her campaign about this yesterday, they said to me, look, she is fighting for wage equality among the genders. It's issues that young women should care about, and she's going to fight for it regardless of whether they vote for her or not. Here's the thing. My sense is, having been very recently a young woman myself, young women don't realize that there's anything unequal about the world. They think they have the same shot at a job, the same shot at great wages as men do.
What I'm hearing from women here in New Hampshire and women I've talked to about the Clinton campaign all over the country, it's not that they don't believe that Hillary Clinton has been a champion for women, but they really chafe at the idea that they should vote for her simply because she is a woman. For many women who are voting, particularly for the first time in this election, it's not as foreign to them, this idea that there will one day be a woman in the White House. I think they know it's going to happen. As one young woman told me, she wants to be able to vote for the first female president. She just wants it to be a candidate that she can fully throw her support behind the policies of and the initiatives that person will champion. The fact that she's simply a woman and shares the same gender with this voter, she said, isn't enough. And that's what I've heard from young women who back Senator Sanders as well.
All right. And then we have to talk about the fact that Bernie Sanders moving into South Carolina, there's been a lot of political insiders who are predicting that he's going to take a nosedive, in part because he didn't have a lot of organization there until recently. And secondly, because he does very well among white voters, but is struggling with people of color. When we're talking about him coming to New York City and sitting down with Al Sharpton, is it too late for him to really see a difference in terms of his popularity with minorities?
It's going to be very difficult. There's very little time between now and the sort of South Carolina primary. The thing you need to remember is that while Bernie Sanders has fared very well among white voters, was a really serious challenger in Iowa, he dominated in New Hampshire. Outside of New Hampshire, the Democratic electorate is 44% non-white. And there is a lot of things he's going to have to do in order to be able to boost his name recognition and to be able to garner the support of black political leadership, both on a local level and national level, in order to sort of build momentum among black voters in South Carolina. Things like meeting with Al Sharpton or getting endorsements from black public intellectuals like Michelle Alexander, or we heard this morning that the writer Ta-Nehisi Coates says he'll be voting for Bernie Sanders. That sort of thing can help tilt things, but there's a very, very small amount of time, and a lot of people are not necessarily following this on a minute-by-minute basis.
And Juana, South Carolina has a long history with the Clintons.
It absolutely does. The Clintons have competed fiercely there, although there was a bit of tension back in the 2008 cycle when the former Secretary of State won and her husband, former President Bill Clinton, seemed to dismiss then Senator Obama's victory there. But to the point, this is something the Clintons know that this is an opportunity from them. You saw that in the memo that came out last night from Robbie Mook of the Clinton campaign, pointing out the long history that Hillary Clinton has with voters of color in this country. To that end, she announced that she'll be campaigning with some of the family members of young black men who were victims of very prominent instances of violence, and pressing the issue of gun violence, including in Charleston, South Carolina, where that tragic shooting happened last summer. So the Clinton campaign is certainly looking to South Carolina to kind of regain momentum after what was just a drumming here in New Hampshire.
Juana Summers, Zeehan Aleem, thank you both for joining me. Appreciate that.